Hello there and welcome to yet another episode of the Ugandan Podcast. I am Rita Kanya Mujuni, and this episode and every episode on the Ugandan Podcast is proudly brought to you by the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. Now, March being Women's Month, we are highlighting different women, their challenges, how they have risen through the ranks to where they are. And today we're going to be taking a look at FinTech, a lady that has been in the FinTech space for 15 years. That's a long time, but it might even be short because there's so much that could be done in longer years. Now, joining us is Shamirah Kimbugwe. Welcome to the Ugandan Podcast, Shamirah.
Thank you.
Shamirah is the CEO of Pivot Payment. Yeah, I just need to give you your title and hand it to you. Shamirah, yes. FinTech. Yes. I say it, some people might have heard of it. Mm-hmm. For some, it's the first time they're hearing of it. Mm-hmm. Some have heard of it but don't really understand what FinTech is. So what is FinTech?
Well, thanks very much, first of all, for having me. I'm pretty honored. I've been given the chance. So FinTech is a combination of two things, that is finance and technology, thus the FinTech name. It basically means you're using technology to either enhance or change or pivot or simplify or integrate financial services into daily life using technology. So that's the basis of it.
Okay, so if we're to bring it to the normal person, we're talking about things like mobile money.
Absolutely.
We are talking about, in summary,
yes.
Money.
It's basically technology around finance. So it can be sending money, receiving money, making a payment, and it's on any level. It can be from a bank account. It can be person to person. So it's literally, it's everyday life. Yes.
Now, talking about that everyday life, how you have put it so well, articulated it, and one would think, wow, Shamirah, why did you have to study to get into all of these things to do with money, and technology and helping people simplify these transactions? How did Shamirah get into FinTech? Because I know, and now you're going to know, that Shamirah, by profession, is a lawyer.
Yes, I am.
So, Shamirah, tell us your journey.
A long one. Into FinTech, it's been almost 15 years. I should be making my 16th. And it didn't start off as a straight path. I didn't study FinTech from the onset. Like you said, I went to law school, Makerere University here, almost 16 years ago. I didn't like it. I come from one of those traditional families where your parents will decide what you want to be. We always joke about it and say African and Indian families are the same. You have a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant, and then the others. The others is usually where everyone else falls. So it wasn't any different for me. My dad specifically chose for me law. He always wanted to have a girl who is a lawyer. And I think I exhibited some, traits. I was chatty, they call us chatterboxes. So he chose for me. I did it, finished. And I didn't like the entire reading, culture. There's a lot of reading for lawyers. And then I looked around and there was no... When you looked for 100 top female lawyers, you'd struggle to put the numbers and the names and even the faces. So I was thinking to myself, no. And I was flown out of the country for holiday, and I'm thankful for that. I had a very good time at that time. So I went to the UK and I was doing summer camp for work. So I started earning a little bit of pounds then, and so that was
tested
the
problem.
Money. Yes. So I tested money then, and I was like, you can actually make money without, having to go through the entire, education side. So I started coming in and back into the country, going back, working, studying. So it was back and forth. So because I was earning, I always wanted to, look at the business side of life and address myself to that more than the professional side of life, which was law. And so that's how I started my journey. So I did 1 year after law school, pretty bored. I was not comfortable with holding people's files or drafting documents, contracts. And then the biggest problem happened. I read that infamous book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. And I thought to myself then, stupidly, like, that I would also physically print money because I was able to make money then.
Yeah.
And so I thought to myself, look, this is an option. This is something that speaks to me. And I told myself I'm not going to do law again. I'm not going to practice. I'm not going to pursue it. I don't see myself doing that. And then one of the reasons, I love color. I really love color. And law had a very peculiar way of boxing us in into grays, blues, blacks, and white. So there was no color yellow. There was, so it was a very simplistic and simple reason, but it was a reason for me to say, I'm done with it.
So you get up and say, I want to explore the world of color.
Yes.
And somehow from
Money.
being a lawyer,
Yes.
okay, now there's money,
Yes.
the aspect that you're chasing.
Absolutely.
Now money and technology.
Yes.
How do you end up this side?
Technology didn't even come in then that early. It didn't. I did a little bit of this and that. To be fair, I didn't even know what I wanted then. All I knew is I wanted to make money. So make money. I started doing a little bit of this and that. I shopped. I did retail. I used to get on the bus to Nairobi. I borrowed from mom. You know, moms are our biggest supporters. So I borrowed a little bit from mom, a few friends, got into the bus, Nairobi, came back, sold baby clothes. I did an NGO. I did some little consultancies, and then I landed myself into radio. I was called to be a business development lead for a radio station, and I think that's where the journey began, in the sense that one of the partners for that radio asked me to go make a pitch with him to, by then it was Housing Finance Bank and Mcash. They had a project they were running together, and we went, I pitched. We didn't get the business, but then they called me back a day later and said, we are not going to give you this business, but would like to have you as a person join the team. And it was a very disturbing thought. So I told the partner then, and I said, look, we've not gotten the business, but they want me to come and join the team. So he said, you're young. I'd like to give you a fair opportunity. So if you're interested, go in. So I was one of those children who never wanted to follow their parents' footsteps. My parents were both bankers. My mom worked in Central Bank. My dad worked in Greenland, and then eventually Cairo Bank. So thinking about Housing Finance Bank and then my parents' background, I was like, banking, don't want to be there. So when they gave me the offer, they gave me brand. So they didn't give me mainstream banking. So I entered as a brand lead. And so that was my start into getting into FinTech. Yes.
Now you get into FinTech. What would say, have you studied the thing? You know, the experience, zero. Education part of it, nothing. But here you are, a whole CEO. What did you have to do? What did you have to learn?
In between?
Yeah.
Everything.
Like?
So let's first backtrack to getting in there. How do I first of all get into the FinTech side? So when I got in, I remember I started in brand, and then I moved on to business development, and then I moved on to sales. So then I knew the commercial side of the FinTech side, but I never knew a thing about the technology or the systems. So if they talked about API, or we talked about a PDF, we talked about all these jargons, I had no idea what they meant.
Yeah.
And so I said, I cannot sell this if I don't know it. And so I used to spend an hour a day with one of the tech guys to teach me. Let's start from the jargon. What does API mean? What does a platform mean? What does a gateway mean? What does this mean? What is an interface? What's UIX? And so the hours turned into days, months, and slowly. So I was able to sell as a wholesome package. And that's when they realized, like, look, she has something nobody else has.
Yeah.
So I could sit and sell to a tech company, or I could actually sit and sell to a non-tech company. So that's how I start understanding, tech side, and understanding that there's finance in it. How does money move? How is money made? And that's how I started getting into FinTech.
Was it fascinating for you?
Very.
Every time that, you walked into a room and now you're using some of the jargon that you have learned, you're reading about, I believe you're also reading about it, the connections and partnerships. What connections and what partnerships do you think brought you this far?
Connections to banks and partnerships to banks, to telecoms, and also to a few tech companies along the way. So in my positions that I've held in the different companies, rising from just a business, a brand lead, and eventually into an operations manager, and into a head of agency banking, and into a country director for Cediland, I have had to deal with telecoms. I've had to deal with providers of card schemes. I've had to deal with banks. And so you have to understand that in finance, this is what happens, all right? And then how do we use technology to either, simplify these financial services or to extend them to the customer? So you've had to learn. So partnerships are very crucial when you have to learn about financial technology.
Okay. Now, finance, technology, all brought together.
Yes.
You were a lady, you even just mentioned it, that
Yes.
you had to learn this jargon from a man
Yes.
at the bank that you were working at.
Yes.
What was the ratio of women to men in the rooms that you walked into, the places that you've worked over time till you got to pivot?
For the longest time, I think the ratio was like probably 1 to 20, 1 to 30. For the longest time, especially in the leadership positions, you'd rarely find a lady at the table of the C table, C-suite, well versed in finance and technology together. Mostly it was either she was legal, or she was commercial, or she was brand communications, things like that. But you'd never find them specifically in the side of technology. And so for the longest time, it was a very, very lonely journey. Got a lot of bashing, got a lot of, as people asking, are you sure you want to do this? This is a man's
bashing
world.
would you get? Because it's like, okay, she has asked the question. Maybe we just won't answer.
Yes.
What other things? Because I know there must have been some people you tried to speak to and ask to learn a few things besides that man that was helpful along the journey. But what was it really? What words might you remember?
A lot. Specifically to that, women are we compartmentalize. And in doing so, we like depth. So we like taking something apart and understanding it inside out. And so it was always very irritating for the men in my industry when I have to sit you down for 3 hours, 4 hours over coffee, and I'm asking you all these questions to them that seem basic. I mean, if you're talking to a developer or an engineer and you're just talking about an API and you want to understand how it works, it is pretty much like asking for a nursery rhyme. Pretty much, that's how I can equate it. And you're asking it of someone who is, at a teaching level, and you're asking for a nursery rhyme. So it's very irritating that I had to drum a lot of, noise around the basics and waste, in quotes, people's time, and having to take them back in conversations because I probably missed something or didn't understand something. And someone would say, but even women are not in this, why are you irritating us? Why are you in our faces? And sometimes it would hurt. You'd be excluded from some conversations. Sometimes when a decision needed to be made, people think you would approach it from a very emotional perspective. So, yeah, it's a pretty lonesome journey. Yes.
But you found a way around it. I don't think you're still walking alone on this journey.
No, we're a couple now.
So you're a number of women now.
Yes.
What is it like for the women now in the fintech space? This is 2023. So
it's 2023. First of all, the space is not pretty well defined. It's still a gray space. And so because I always look at it like an ADHD spectrum, because there's a value chain or a food chain around this and it's not defined, it's very hard for women to pretty much point out where in the spectrum they fall, where they are as players in the fintech space. And that's one of the key challenges that we have today. So even when you meet, you're not entirely sure that the ladies that you're meeting fall within specifically this category, or they're fluid along the spectrum. So even the conversations are sometimes strenuous or far-fetched, or you have to dance around a topic just to have a feel first of how much knowledge they have, in that space. Or because you're trying to make someone comfortable, you're trying to be civil. Because if you go deep,
you might lose them.
Chinese, you'll be speaking Chinese. And so To be fair, it's still a grey area for us. It's still a struggling space for us. People are still finding themselves. But I believe we're headed in the right direction. Yeah.
When we talk about direction, that also goes to a knowledge gap. Or knowledge, actually.
Yes.
Just sort of brought me to the knowledge gap immediately. Knowing where you want to go.
Yes.
Or is there a guidance on, these, like you say, the spectrum is quite wide.
Yes.
It's not well defined. Those gaps, talk about those gaps apart from the spectrum.
They start from school. We don't have direct courses that are going to channel us into this industry. The same way you'd say a doctor is going to do PCB, the same way you're going to look at a lawyer do their history, economics, and maybe literature. The combinations right from high school are not clear when you want someone to go into this space. When you go to university, there's nothing that is cut out for us as an industry, financial technology, something that offers a mixture of finance, yes, and technology. What are the basics that you must have? So we don't have something cut out for us. And so you'll find that one has to waste an entire 3 years of their school life at uni, study something that you'd call a base course, either finance or
tech.
Or exactly,
ICT.
or tech, exactly. And then they have to go back and do a complementary course. That's number one. Number two, there's no direct providers of this knowledge as institutions. Maybe DFA South Africa does, because that's where most of us have gone to do the short courses. Maybe you do online, and a few, universities in the Western world have started offering the same. But as a country, as Uganda, we are still yet to get into that space where there's something that is, very clear for us as an industry, so that someone can come from down pursuing this journey. So most of us have found ourselves there by chance. It's pure chance that I am here. Some have looked at us who are here, the veterans, the crazy godmothers of the industry, and they're like, I want to be that, but they have no idea where to start. So knowledge gap starts from the institutions, the government itself, and also the providers, and also institutions like our own having programs where you intern or mentor. So there's a gap. There's still a big knowledge gap.
Yeah, so a lot needs to be
Absolutely.
taught.
Absolutely.
A lot needs to be learned. There's a lot to learn.
Absolutely.
But you have learned along the way, and you've mentioned
I
one
am
of the
trying.
things, a short course that you did
Yes,
take in South
yes,
Africa.
yes.
It's not the only one that you have taken.
Digital
so.
finance.
Okay.
So it puts both of them together. It adds the finance side and the digital or tech side.
Okay.
So at least it will give you basics.
Okay.
So there's digital finance level 1, level 2, up to level 3. Now there are those who, if you're allowed, you can do a paper and then you have a master's out of that. So you become a skilled, professional in this industry. I think the generation to come is going to have it better than we did. So
I believe they are going
Yeah,
to. I'm
they
even
are
here
going
thinking
to.
maybe, perhaps there could be an opportunity for me there.
yes,
But
you'd fit so well.
well, when you talk about, thank you very much. When you talk about education,
Yes.
let's talk about from what you learned eventually. Let's go to your success story.
Okay.
Pivot Payments now. Fast forward, we're here.
Yes.
One successful venture that Pivot Payments has taken, and I don't want to sort of lead you there, but you can tell us about it, that's helping a number of Ugandans in and out of the country.
Yes.
Yeah.
The most successful use case we've had is we call it the diaspora economy. Typically, the people in this space call them kadamas, the export labor, the unskilled export labor who are specifically in the GCC. So we found a gap. I think it was 1.5 years down the road of our inception. We realized that they don't have a direct way to save their money, to also move their money. So basically, they didn't have access to proper financial services. So there was a need to make those lacking financial services digital and available for them. So because we are very agile in the way we operate, we were able to like our name, Pivot, we were able to pivot very quickly to that. And we didn't even start out as Pivot Payments. We started as Tumia Pesa because of them. So we wanted to do a service that sends money home. Tumia Pesa means send money. So we wanted to do a service for them to send money home. And along the way, we didn't realize what we're getting ourselves into. They had so many problems. Money is lost physically. Cost of sending is about 2%. That's the lowest, which is very, very high for a person like that, of value, by the way. And then because some of them do not have their IDs with them, so dealing with the KYC issue was very problematic, or identification. And so it's a problem space, but we've taken our time to study and to provide, and I think we've become the brand of choice for them, to the extent that it's now referral based. I use this.
So you should also use it.
Exactly, and now we're actually forging partnerships with the companies that take them to those countries. So it's been one of our success stories.
Yes. How many would you say currently are
users?
Users.
100,000 plus.
Okay.
Yes.
And what services do they access there besides sending money? What else can they do?
So they're saving, which is the biggest problem. They didn't have where to save their money, so they're saving. We've now given them payment of tuition direct, because most of them are family members back home. So we give them that. We're now going into asset financing, where they're able to purchase land when they're that side. And then we are also moving into things like low-cost housing for them, so they can actually work and purchase their assets and pay for them, in phases. So it's exclusive to that community, not the community back home.
Yeah.
So for them, it's the payments, it's the savings, and it's the, that. And then there's also financial services, again, where we are now getting into allowing them to invest. So now you see the whole finance and technology. So you use the application to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And then you have a whole team on the scene that's doing that.
Exactly.
So partnerships, you had touched on it.
Absolutely.
You have plans of partnering with these different companies that are taking these girls and women out, but also, I believe, tapping into that market.
Yes.
You required partnerships.
Yes, we did. Lots of partnerships, big partnerships. That's a very, very tight market, a very controlled market. In as much as doing business there is setting up business there is easy, but when it comes to anything related to finances or financial services, their regulation is airtight. But we've had to work through local partners who are providing similar services as a way in, and then we also, launched ourselves over there.
Now on security, because when we come to money, there's a bit of hesitation of, I'm going to give you my money, but how can I trust you?
Yes.
Yeah. On security and matters to do with privacy. Yeah. Because for these ladies and for many that are using pivot payments, how do you gain someone's trust to say, you know what, let me give this lady my money. Let me give this company my money.
I'll before giving you a direct answer to that, I'll give you a scenario. Every week we have cases of people saying, I sent my money to an individual and I lost that money. And this person says, I give them, say 500,000, but I know I gave 800,000. These people purport to invest for these people. So if they say the investment didn't go through, you lost everything, it's sort of like a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
Where is this, this worker going to go? Nowhere. So what we've gone and done is, to build trust is, first of all, we had to be regulated and, certified by the central bank. And it's our pride point, but it's been one of the toughest things I don't think I've done anything that tough like that in my life.
Why was it so tough?
The intricacy, the thoroughness, the depth of it, the sheer asks that they have from all the entire, space. It's how secure your systems are, how robust they are, how stable they are, so you go through everything before you get to that level. So you can look at us in terms of a bank, a digital bank, because the level of regulation and compliance and licensing we have is similar to a bank. The only thing that differentiates us is the size of capital and also the type of operation. That a bank is more physical and we're digital. So we've had to build trust by getting licensed. Would you rather you deal with somebody whose brand has been, certified and listed by the central bank to say, these ones, according to our standards, they are allowed to do this? Or you would deal with we always say, I have someone who can do it better. You know that when you want
cheaper,
better, and, you know. So what would you want to do? You want to trust your money with an established institution. So we've had to establish ourselves as a brand, as a licensed brand, to build the trust. And then for the privacy that you asked about is because we want you to control your money in the ecosystem. We want you to be able to authenticate. So we've inbuilt document verification. We've built biometric verification. So you've had to do your dancing head, you know, in the app to confirm it's actually you. So even if you left your phone there and someone wants to use it, they cannot be you. They'll not have the same face as you. They probably don't know your OTPs, you know, your pins to log in, and even won't get the OTPs. So we've gone and done what everyone else is trying to do in the industry to standardize, to give both security and privacy. But I want to also say security is a journey. No one goes and says, you know, I'm perfect. I have arrived to, you know, there's no arrivalism when it comes to security. It's a never ending, you know, cycle of improvement. Yeah.
Now, on that never-ending cycle of improvement, because as a company that is registered within the country,
yes,
you're meeting the standards that have been put by the central bank.
Yes.
There is also a bit of compliance that you have to go through. Yes, and for many who are watching and listening, they're like, oh wait, that could be a space. There's money there.
Yes.
Yeah, because you're providing a solution.
Yes.
You're making money. But there's a cost of making that money.
Yes.
How hard is it, and how has it been like?
The heaviest cost we have is on three things. First of all, is compliance. The cost on compliance is crazy. Very crazy, because you have to comply with the tax body, you have to comply with the central bank, you have to comply with NITA in our case, which is the technology body. You have to comply with systems, schemes like Visa. You know, you have to comply with PCI DSS. You have to comply with
lot of things to comply.
Tens of things, absolutely. So you find yourself that the level of investment you need is high. The second level of investment that you probably need aside from compliance is the technology. So one thing is swinging you around because of, you know, compliance, and then you have to also invest very heavily in technology. I normally like talking about Netflix. When Netflix launched several years ago, selling DVDs on a website, 15 minutes later their website crashed because they didn't have scale. The servers were not enough. It happened to us in our initial years. I think it was about 4 or 5 months into. We never anticipated that we would have that much traffic. And so what you invest in technology matters. The scope, the scale, the sheer scale of the platforms that you use, the robustness. And then one time, I think I was even in Nairobi, it's been one of the craziest times I've had. Again, we also crashed. And we were down for almost 4 hours, 5 hours. And so back up. So you learn these things along the way, that this is what I have to invest in terms of technology. What's my recovery period? If I lost data, I mean, what's plan B for me? How do I ensure sustained service, you know? So you have to invest in compliance, technology, and then you have to invest in people. For me, it's the most important part.
Why?
People. I mean, if you have a lot of technology and less people, you're going to have, I mean, it's the people who
are going to run this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they bring the human touch to it, and they're the ones who are going to know that, look, this is, as a human, this is what I want. So even in terms of innovation, it's the people you need who are then going to direct the technology to do what the people need. So investing in people, in technology, and in compliance is one of the focus areas.
So now with all that you have mentioned there, the people, that means the task force is going to get with the dreams that Pivot Payments has.
Yes.
I don't think that. How many people do you employ at the moment?
We are closing in on 40 now.
Just now. So
yeah.
The numbers could grow.
The numbers are growing very quickly because we are now moving into other countries. We've been very fortunate to be invited into other countries. So we've got South Sudan, which is a baby market, but they really want to do something with us. So we've signed a couple of contracts there. So I have to have a team there. I have a team in Kenya because it's also a market for us. We have a team in UAE, in India. So because we are growing, we probably will close there at about 80, double what we have now. Yeah.
And that means that your role as a leader is also one that requires you to, one, delegate,
Yes.
but also give oversight.
Yes.
And you also happen to be a mother.
Yes.
You happen to have a life.
Yes.
And you happen to travel a lot.
A
to
lot.
do all these things.
A lot.
Why I'm asking this because you are a woman.
Yes.
And there are women who are like, I should maybe double down on a few things because this is the journey I'm taking. What has it been like doing all these things as a woman?
It's I want to be very honest with you. It's hard. I don't want to paint roses and, plant flowers alongside this. It's really hard. But you must be able to, one, decide. Decision is very important. Choice is very important. You can't have your cake and eat it. You won't want to be a stay-home mom and also to be a working mom.
Yeah.
You have to say, look, I have to balance this. But the same way you'd book or pencil in a meeting is the same way you must pencil in time with your family. For me, it's crazy. When you look at my calendar, I have work blocks and I say personal time. And here I'll say, family time. If I'm going to be reading that little, human a story in the evening, or we are going to be singing our nursery rhymes, please don't call me and ask for a meeting at that hour. So I've had to learn, the hard way, that the same way I respect time for a meeting in the boardroom or with my teams or in another country is the same way when I block time off for my family is the same way I have to respect it. So it's not easy. It's very hard. But you also have to have a very good support network, not just family, but also your staff. You must be able to offload and decide what are the critical things you must deal with as a leader. Not everything. You can't micromanage and stay sane. You can't be looking at how much paper we need today, how many pencils, we don't have paper clips. You can't be looking at that and at the same time deciding if I'm going to enter maybe Saudi Arabia as a market and which partners I need at that level, and also looking at maybe Central Bank Uganda, Central Bank UAE, and this is what they want. So you must know at what level you play in the company. So you just can't be all over. So it's focus, it's choice, and a little bit of sacrifice. I would probably, be up to 1 a.m. sometimes, or 2 or 4 a.m. if I have to beat a deadline. I have found myself in transit. I literally live out of a suitcase, for like 2 to 3, weeks a month, at some point. And then some months I'm home. So it's sacrifice. But eventually you'll see it paying it off. Yeah.
And it has paid off.
It is paying off.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's for now. But
Yes.
as Pivot Payments, you even have future plans.
Yes.
One of the things that Pivot Payments is planning on doing
Yes.
is getting into digital banking.
Yes.
One would already say you're sort of almost into it already,
Yes.
but what are you getting into that is so untapped and uncharted water right now? Yeah.
So we're trying to build a digital bank or a neobank. And a digital bank is that bank that has no branches. Yes. Our favorite to look at is Revolut Europe, which is about 20 million customers strong. There's Monzo, there's Sterling, there's Bank now that has come out, BNQ. So we want to be that bank that is so agile. It's nowhere and everywhere at the same time. It's a partner. It's living with you, so that when you want fully fledged banking services, you have them at the, at the tip of your fingers. Whether you have a smartphone or not, because our market is quite different. We are not at that level where, everyone has card or everyone has a smartphone. When you look at how much, this smartphone penetration is still low. So we want to cater for that customer and this customer in the sense that whether you're out of the country or in the country, you can still have the same service. You can enjoy the same service. So that's what we want to build.
Yeah.
And in Uganda, it will be its first.
I like the fact
Yes.
that it will be because
It
it's
will
going
be.
to happen.
Yes.
The faith that you're
Yes.
going with it.
Yes.
You're saying if it's to happen in Uganda, it will be the first. If it's within the region, it would be
The second.
potentially.
Yes.
Yeah.
If Kenya doesn't, Kenya always gives us sleepless nights. It just licensed a digital bank 2 weeks ago, I think. So depending on how quick they are, we'll probably will be the second to be fully licensed. If not, probably around, top 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, top 5 is also a good
It's
place.
also
But
good
yeah,
enough.
it's good enough. You know, because at the start of the conversation, when you
Yes.
said when you were getting into the law profession, you look back and you said, let me look around for top 100. Is there any woman?
Yes.
You're like, no.
No.
And now here we are having a conversation
Yes.
about top 5 or potentially top
Yes.
2. When we say 5, top 3. Let's
Top
put it
three.
at top 3.
Yes, top 3.
Yeah.
In
So
FinTech,
that's
yes.
good on you. Let's give you your flowers now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A pat on my back, yes.
Now, you have been in the industry
Yes.
long enough to identify the most pressing issues. What are they and how can the government help?
How candid do you want me to be?
Go on, go for it.
The space has a lot of issues, and I'll start with taxes because this is a very big point for me. Taxes are good. We love them. We're law-abiding citizens. But sometimes they stifle growth, especially to an industry that is just growing. I'll give you a small example. 2021, the African continent must have received close to 1.3 billion in funding. Less than 20% came to East Africa. And obviously less than 2% came to Uganda. So there must be a reason why isn't funding coming into this country. It's not for the lack of innovation. We have about 189 fintechs, in this space. So it's not for a lack of innovation. But the regime, the tax regime is very, it holds us back. You would look at someone in manufacturing and they have, if they've brought in an investment of $250,000 to $500,000, being given land, being given a tax holiday, you'd look at the investors, the international investors who come in and they're given 5 years. And we're saying, look, FinTech has the capability of not just tripling, but doing more than 10 times in terms of investment inflow. But then the tax regime is not, cognizant of that opportunity to say if they could maybe say, let's give you a tax holiday of 2 years if you meet this criteria or if you meet this level of investment, things will be different. The story will be different. You've started seeing companies raising $12 million, $15 million, $20 million. That's all investment inflow into the country. So tax is a big problem. The second is, clarifying the space and creating a knowledge, space or an education program around financial technology that is very clearly spelled out, that is, at university. It can start as a short course, weekend, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and then it can progress into a fully fledged, university course. We cannot shy away from the direction of technology. The world is spinning because of technology. When you look at what, 10 years ago, the most valuable company was Coca-Cola, beverage. Today, the top 5, you have Twitter, you have, it's all technology. You
TikTok.
have Facebook, it's TikTok, it's Tencent, it's mostly technology.
Netflix,
exactly. So the government has to look at where are we going in terms of value and create an environment that is able to allow investment to come in. So there's tax, I said there's education, and there's support. So support can be, technical. There's so many who are struggling with space, so they can have, free to occupy space, and let them give them a hand. Yeah.
Put out something and just
Even just business incubation. People can have an idea, because most people who are in the space are mostly technology people, young boys. So if they're in technology, there's a high chance that they don't know how to build a business. So they don't know this entire, ecosystem of register the business, file this, do this, compliance, financials must be looking like this, contracting must be like this. So that entire, capacity building should be, supported.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Shamirah, I want to take a break from FinTech. We now want to take a look at who Shamirah is. There's a part of the Ugandan podcast that is called Quickfire. Yeah. It's very, very simple.
Yes.
I would like you to answer with the thing that comes off your
My
mind very
mind
quick.
first?
Yeah. So let's do this, right?
Okay.
One is, what's your favorite Ugandan food? Or food, actually?
I love meat. all shapes,
Any
colors, and
particular one?
sizes.
Top
I
three of
really
that.
love goat's meat. It's tender, it's juicy, it's fatty. I don't want to talk about it now.
It might get you hungry.
I tend to get emotional when I talk about that. But
Okay.
yeah, it's beef.
All right.
Yes.
And then you usually travel out a lot. Yeah. From our conversations, you've said every 2 weeks you're leaving the country or coming back into the country.
Yes.
What's that one thing, or actually let's put it at 3 things. I'm giving you some. I'm very generous with time today. What are those 3 things that you find you miss a lot when you leave the country?
The weather.
Which one? Because we have just come through something that was so hot, and now we're experiencing
Even
a
when
bit of
it's
rain.
hot, it's not that bad. You can't compare because I'm usually in the GCC area, the UAE. It's really hot. I mean, sometimes it gets to 50, 55. When do we ever even get to 30? So I really miss the weather, the water. That's the amazing thing. Our water is very fresh, very natural. I've gone to places where the water is hard and salty, both on body and on palate. So it's and I miss roasted nuts.
Oh.
When I am snacking at tea, most of what you'll find is probably breads, flat breads, cakes and what. I miss our traditional roasted nuts to snack on at tea time.
So when I say can't you pack, sir?
I do.
Yeah,
That's out of it because I do. It's always in the suitcase. Everyone knows me. That even someone who is coming to visit me at home, they know she loves, the roasted nuts.
Do you make them yourself sometimes?
No, I don't even know how. I am
But you love the
terrible at
taste.
them. Yes,
That makes the 2 of us. I
Yes.
love them, but
I am terrible at them.
the last time I met them, let's just say that no one ate
Multicolored.
them.
Yes.
The last part, which will be our last question for quick round, is
Yes.
what's that one thing, that first mistake that you made as Shamirah that was heavy, but somehow you're standing here today?
Career switch. Biggest mistake. Then I always say mistakes are in terms of time context. When I switched, I fell out with family. My dad was very heartbroken. My mom was, now you want your father to kill me. We're African, so our moms tend to
Carry the burden.
Yeah, so it looked like I had wasted their money, their time. I had disrespected them. I lost a lot of friends who thought I now didn't belong to that. Lawyers are the so-called learned friends. And so I didn't belong anymore. So it cost me some. I sort of became an outcast. And I think that's one of the things that are responsible for me now. I like being on my own sometimes, just to have my personal space. So it cost me some. I value society, I value family. So it cost me a lot on family.
How are you doing now?
I'm happy.
Have you family back?
Yes, they are back. Sadly, my parents are not around to see what we've achieved.
Do you think
They didn't
they're
even
looking
see the
down?
company being born. They were dead, long dead by then. I mean, I've been in it for 15 years, so really, it's been, some good time. But by and large, my family is happy and proud that, look, we're here. And every time they call us to step up to say, we are the pioneers in FinTech, it's, that's our girl, So we've mended the relationships.
Yeah.
Everything can happen. You can get money, you can travel. Bottom line, it's always family.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm in a good place.
Okay, but also still staying with that, you still use your education, the lawyer bit of it, the legal
yes.
term and aspects you use in your company.
Because for the longest time, we didn't even have a lawyer. I was doing both, founder, MD, lawyer, what. So it helps in that way. It saved us on cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good on you. 15 years later.
Thank you.
And like you said, in hindsight,
Yes.
it looks like it was a good decision.
Yes, it was a good decision.
But yeah,
But
it gets
by
lonely
then,
along the journey.
Very lonesome journey.
Yeah.
Very lonesome.
Okay, but with money. So I don't know how that means. Because there are some people, and I just need to put it out there, that they are Ugandans who believe as long as I have the money, I am happy.
It doesn't buy happiness, I can tell you that. It doesn't buy happiness.
I believe
Yes.
we have gotten it
Yes.
straight from the source.
It doesn't buy you happiness, I can tell you that. If anything, sometimes it can get you into a depression. Because there's a way you're alienated. There's a way, a lot can happen along the way, but family is important. People are important. So I wish people would invest more in people relationships than money relationships. I cannot say that money is not needed, but yeah, if you're comfortable, yes, please invest in people relationships. Yeah.
Very important.
Yes.
I believe I've just invested in a people relationship.
Well, I should hope so.
She has my number. I have her number.
Yes.
Now, last thing is, would like you to give advice to the woman who has been listening, or maybe there's a gentleman who is listening and watching, and he could carry this advice to his sister, to his girlfriend, to his wife, his mother. Because you never know.
Yes.
It's one, you're never too old to do something. You're never too young to do something.
KFC.
Yeah. So tell us, tell them, tell me.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think men are going to shoot me for this, but yeah, I'm going to say it. Women are most suited to do this job.
Why?
We pay attention to detail. We are more intrinsic. We are more intentional. And we can compartmentalize. FinTech is something that requires you to think, in so many dimensions. And I personally think women can do a better job. I mean, there's a reason why today the CEO of YouTube is a woman. It's not by chance, So I think we can do this better than the men. So don't doubt yourself. It's going to be slow and painstaking, but you're the best suited gender to do this job.
Yeah.
Yes.
It will have a bit of areas that you have to sacrifice, but like you said, it's still, you have done it.
I have done it.
Other women are doing it.
Exactly.
So just start.
Nothing can stop you.
That's really
You're
true.
the best suited. Actually, you're not even best, better, twice, 10 times more than men. Sorry for the guys in the room. But yes, we are better suited to do the job.
Yeah. So
from my experience, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like they say, some may point it out as a weakness, but it's a strength when you say, we pay attention to detail.
To detail, yes.
Yeah. It just depends on what you're paying attention to detail.
If a woman is doing code and a man is doing code, this is from experience. The woman's code is cleaner. There's depth to it. There's clarity in it because they take their time, because they are more focused, they're more intentional. A man wants to do something faster. A woman wants to do something better. So you know what you want now.
Yeah. I think it ties into the ministry's campaign this month is telling women that there are opportunities out for them and they're suited for them.
Yes.
And even this month on the international scene, the conversation is about how the opportunities are present for technology, for equity.
Women.
Yes. And so this is a very timely conversation. You have been an amazing guest.
Thank you.
I have learnt a lot. I am perhaps thinking of what I'll do next.
You can come by office and we have coffee and we have discussions around it. Probably you can bring up the next big idea.
Watch out for me on the Ugandan Podcast. But thank you for joining us, Shamirah, on the Ugandan Podcast, for breaking down FinTech for us, for taking us through what needs to be done in the FinTech industry, what can be achieved there. We wish you all the best for the digital banking. We'll be back with a conversation about you.
When we are licensed as a digital bank.
Yeah. When that happens, we'll be here with a round of applause
to celebrate
for you.
with us.
Definitely.
Yes.
So from us to you as the Ugandan Podcast, we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
To all the viewers and listeners, thank you for joining us on this episode of the Ugandan Podcast that has been proudly brought to you by the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. So from us to you, as your host, Rita Kanya Mujuni, till the next episode, keep it Ugandan.